All right, and we're back this week with episode 7 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians on Disney+. Thankfully, it was a little bit longer than last week. I was vibing with that right as soon as I saw the timeline. You know, I'm a big fan of the episodes that run a little longer.
It was about 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Is the runtime after you get through recaps and stuff.
And, dude, it hauled. It hauled. This was my week. I think this is my week. You're going to see I'm going to be very animated today with this episode because it hit all my bases. When we get to the scores, it's going yard. I'll just get that out of the way right now. This was an absolute banger episode for me. What were your quick first impressions of this week, maybe compared to last week, or just overall?
Well, this was definitely the flashback episode. So I was digging a little bit of that story of early Percy, and I mean it was a great reveal at the end of this whole thing. I really haven't not enjoyed any of the episodes, so yeah, I was just going along, enjoying it, laying in bed, watching the episode before getting up to do this.
True. We're going to talk about that flashback stuff in a little bit, because I think you and I typically have the same view on flashbacks, that they need to have a point. You know, they can't just be like absolute handbrakes being yanked to stall momentum going forward. I think they were very judicious in their use here. They had a point. It was very poignant. I thought it was very touching, especially that last clip with Mom and the unnamed stranger, because we're not doing the spoilers just yet. It's probably kind of obvious, though, at this point, who Mom would probably meet up with in a stranger on this show about a demigod, but okay.
Especially after doing a little sacrifice with a match.
Saying, I mean, it's not exactly like they were trying to hide it from them. But you said we had about 40 minutes of runtime. It hit everything that I was looking for in an episode like this. And my only takeaway or wish for the show going forward is that more of them were tonally like this, like that whole opening segment of him walking into the waterbed store of all places. Waterbeds, get it? And who's in charge of the waterbed store? Kind of like his half-brother.
Yeah.
It's very creepy, very somber. The guy they cast to play the role of Krusty.
Yeah.
Like FBI pedo list for sure. You know, but not him. I mean, the look of him, you know what I mean? It felt like an old school. I think we said this at the beginning of the show. There were certain when they were in the attic at one point in a quick a quick clip. It feels like Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like it just feels creepy, appropriate for like that in between kids show. Like if you're like 11, 12, 13, but ominous and like kind of foreboding. Like you're like, oh, the music cues very on point with like rising tension. So yeah, this episode had me right from that first segment because it was exactly that vibe right away. And I'm like leaning in a little bit more. Okay, phone is safely across the room. I'm going to pay attention to this one so King Z don't trip me up this week with, listen, dumbass, if you'd been paying attention, you'd have seen this. You know, we're going to avoid all that today because I was with this episode. What did you think of that first segment? Because I thought the kids were clever there again, if you just wanted to talk about kind of how they get by the initial gatekeeper, if you will.
Yeah. So, of course, he was the god of, like, lost travelers, son of full-blood son of Poseidon. Yep. And here comes his little half-brother coming in, busting up his bed store. And he was just trying. First, he tries to play the brother role, like, "Come on, just let me through, bro." We're both here.
He tried.
I know who you are. I know who you are. Let's not play these games. And then he kept trying to push him into the bed because the bed pretty much restrains you. It's how people get lost. Which he figures it out quickly because he kept pushing the beds, and then the beds is how you trap them. Okay. And he's like, "You really should try this bed." And he's like, "You first." And that's when you get to see Annabelle use her very special hat.
Yep.
Pushing him into the bed. And then Grover comes in after all the action's done.
Naturally. I like the bit about the beds because once again, I feel like this is like Saw Light. Like it's just like some shit, like it's just some weird mechanized crap to keep you down with like the bedspreads coming up and over, locking them down. And I think that, like you said, Percy tried to use the brother talk on they call him Krusty. I don't remember what the gods. He was like, I'm just gonna call him Kristopheles or something. It was something like that. I'm calling him Kristopheles, whatever, because he said his nickname is Krusty. Percy tries to use the bro speech on him, but it comes in response and around Kristopheles, trying to like endear him with like the whole, I know what it's like, you know, it's hard for guys like us because our parents make it difficult for guys like us. So all of these dickhead Greek gods are literally trying to ruin this kid by convincing him how tough. Like it's sick. It's like it's cult stuff. You know what I mean? Like we gotta get hearts and minds. We gotta get in there and do the whole like we gotta win you over because we know it's so bad, but it doesn't have to be so bad on our team. You know what I mean? So like I like that back and forth, and it was over quick too. If they didn't waste any time. Like this episode spent all its time and money in the underworld, and it was a stroke of genius how they did something interesting in those first few minutes, and then boom, right off, like right
into the adventure part.
Yep, I'm saying they played every minute card. If every minute had a card, it was played at the exact right beat for me. Yeah. So we get into the underworld, right? Yep.
And either I'll say the underworld, or someone left a carton of milk in there from the 90s.
From the 90s, which, you know, for some of us, that was a reality check. I'm going to let you talk about this because I want to get your take, because I thought where a lot of other shows often blow their budgets, and this is my per episode rant against She-Hulk and the MCU shows, there's no way this show had the budget She-Hulk got. $225 million for 8 episodes or 6 or whatever it was. What did you think of the look of the underworld, dude? I loved it.
It was perfect. Loved it. I mean, you left a lot of it to ominous shadows with little figures in the background, so you didn't need a big set, really. So it could really take any form you wanted it to take. And they didn't try to do too much with it, to try to tell too much of a story. I'm glad they didn't go with, like, fire and brimstone, because this is a different type of underworld. It's not the Christian underworld. It is the Greek mythology with the river Styx and the boatmen. In which they see him ferrying souls across the river Styx to the gates of the underworld. And the difference in the Greek mythology compared to most other religions is that everyone who dies goes to the underworld. There's not a division.
It's not hell. Right.
Yeah. And a lot of Hollywood tries to portray it that way because it goes to more of what U.S. religions are like, where there's a heaven and a hell. But this is just this where everyone goes when they die. Yep. If you go with old school fantasy, it was the same way they had it talked about. You had the different layers, where you had like the waiting, purgatory, and then the underworld.
Yep.
And this kind of has its own little setting like that too, because you have like different areas of the underworld that people go to. Yep. So I think they portrayed the writing of the Greek myth pretty well with this, because it is a area that is cast in shadow. They did that very well with the color, because I mean it was a very grayish tone to everything. Yep. Even the actors had more of a grayish tone to them as they were there, even though they were alive. You could definitely pick out that they were not dead compared to the dead, the line of dead people they cut the line to. Good pickup. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so they stood out a little bit, but like I've been loving the color in this whole show to begin with.
You've said that.
How they use the color to tell a story is masterfully done. And I believe this one is actually more true to the book. I actually saw a short where they were talking about Hades and the underworld, and like how they believe that Percy Jackson, the writing, did Hades the best out of all of what's been made. And he wasn't
put a pin in Hades for me. Keep going, but put a pin in Hades, because I actually want to draw a different, one of my other usual comparisons in a little bit.
But yeah, like one of the things that they said they did better than other Hollywood is that they didn't portray him as the guy who's trying to overthrow everything. And the thing, and like I said earlier, they portrayed the underworld as just the underworld where all the dead go. So I really did enjoy how it looked and how they try to stay true to the myth.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I'm going to jump ahead to my other franchise connection. I think I said at the beginning of this show when we were talking about the gods, and Hades in particular, is the way Hades is portrayed in the Dresden Files. It's one of his specific things that he says when Dresden meets him in one of the later books, is Harry points out in one of his inner monologues that, Hades gets the bad rap as being the a-hole tormentor, abuser of humanity, and this. But if you look at the accountings from, ancient Greece, there's not a whole lot of specific tales of him coming down hard on mortals. That really is a Zeus kind of thing, and a Hera kind of thing, and an everybody else kind of thing. And Hades kind of he was put in charge of the underworld. He just kind of fucked off and went down there and stayed. And it was funny that they actually mentioned that in this episode, where it's like, dude, as you can see, it's all, rainbows and cupcakes down here. I'm just hanging out. I'm good down here. That's why I don't go up there.
There's no
like,
family
I want
drama
nothing
down
to do
here.
with this. Right. So I was like, oh yeah, dude, that's cool. I like that. My take on the Underworld, I also loved it, dude. Like you said, it had different dimensions. They had the waiting line, and your in-episode joke this week was the elevator music while they were waiting in line, which I thought was kind of hilarious. I'll give them a chuckle on that, right? So you have that, which was good. You have the Black Gates of Mordor, Gates of Tartarus thing going on. Very cleverly done. Quick shot. You're looking up. You get a feel for the scope of it, and it's long and it's tall, and like that's just how that is, you know. Then you get Cerberus. Effects look great. I thought three-headed dog, very cool, slobbery, snarly, kind of gross. I thought it ate Grover for a second. It's not spoiler alert. I mean, we're already 10 minutes in here. I obviously knew he was going to ease his way out of that dog's mouth. But I'm like, oh, at least they did it. At least they took a poke at it, you know? And then when Annabeth does the thing where she kind of like scratches the dog to sleep and soothes him kind of thing, one of the dog heads kind of fell asleep on another dog head. I'm like, yes, see, that's some kind of cool shit that dog would do if you pet him to sleep. You know, so I was taking that vibe. And I'm like, if this show is on, you know, like the Burger King budget compared to the other Marvel shows, and they wisely spent all their money on that creature effect, like, where do these shows spend all their money, bro? Where does it go? Like, it can't be legal what they do. It can't. You know? Like, they animated that dog for like a 40-second scene.
Yeah, some of it's going to be going to the cast. A lot of that budget will go to the cast to pay for some of those big name actors that are in these shows. Even if they're doing cameos, you still have to pay their day rate to them.
Sure.
So maybe there.
But I was digging the dog, and then like how you mentioned the zones. We get the elevator, we get the boat master, and I thought they cleverly did the whole face paint, hood up. No weird prosthetics. It wasn't necessary. No weird blurring, sorcery effects. They didn't need it.
No, so I thought they were wise on effects with him.
That's what I mean. Like, there was nothing crazy to be like, he's not floating off the ground, wreathed in like blue fire or anything strange. You know, so they move zones from the wall. They get through a creepy ass forest that had another aspect of souls that were trapped by regret. That's how we separated Annabeth from the team. There was great moments on the way up to that too, after Grover says that, you know, he lost his escape pearl that Percy had given him at the end of last episode. And Percy's like, nah, bro.
During this episode.
But he obtained them in the last episode and gave them. Yeah. And gave them here, right? Grover had lost his while he was chewed up. Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, like one of us has to stay behind. We're boned. And Percy's like, nah, dog, you're getting out of here. Take mine. You're going to get my mom and get out of here. I'll sort something else out. And I'm like, again, hero play. He's 12. We're heroes in other shows. Why can't you do shit like this? Same thing with Annabeth. She's like, listen, you got to go on. I'll be fine. I'll set the distraction. Hero play. Boop. You know, this is a good show for that kind of stuff. Like, I wish more people were watching it. You know, because I think there's a lot of aspirational stuff here that other shows in the mainstream just don't have. They don't have the stones to let people be brave. They just don't.
Here's a little bit about Kerberos as well. You know, that's the name of the security system that protects the kernel of Windows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Named it after the three-headed dog from Greek mythology, the Great Guard dog.
Digging it. So after they get out of the forest of the damned, they get to the edge of a desert kind of thing, like the Sands of Oblivion kind of element. Some weird shit happens. They almost get pulled in, like something's calling out to Grover's shoes, the winged shoes from Hermes. Yep. Percy saves him with the dagger, with the sword play in the wall, kind of slows to a halt. The shoes go over the side. Percy falls back, and we hear a clang. And this is my only gripe with the episode, or kind of the show's logic at this point. There's a clang, and when he reaches in his backpack, there's something in there.
Yep.
You want to talk about what was in there and how that could have been a thing and how nobody noticed for 3 days?
All right, so
please help me understand.
With the pit too, let me start with the pit. I believe it was pulling the shoes in because it was pulling anything in that was magical from or gift of the gods type thing. I think that's what was kind of the whole thing. Because that's the pit that Kronos was chopped up into and thrown into.
Yeah.
So just to let you a little backstory there. If I have it wrong, please leave a comment and let me know.
Yeah, you know who you are. Thank you for commenting.
Also, the other reason why is that it could take another form. Remember his teacher, how Grover couldn't sense her because of the way they were shadowing everything.
Yep.
They could have shadowed that as well, the same way.
Okay.
But because of
That's fair.
But having the pit trying to draw everything in might have broke that, and then that's what set it off so they could actually see it.
Okay, that's fair, and that actually exists within the world building. And that was my suspicion. I was like, there's got to be something here, because otherwise that's a glaringly stupid thing that they'd have to ask me to pass on. So
and the same
I'll give you credit on that one.
Who told me to forget about the movie? Do you know how they did it in the movie?
Probably stupidly.
They put it inside Ares' shield that they took to the underworld to protect them, and then they found it inside his shield.
Oh, so they had to change that up, because in the show, obviously, they already made that bargain to swap that out and give that back to him.
Also, they played it up. They played Hades up like standard Hollywood in the movie too, where he's the devil and he's not Hades.
Okay, so stupid. So, all right, so that explains that. I'm glad for that. So we get the two guys. They avert disaster, but now Grover is without the shoes. Those are presumably lost, I'm guessing. I'm not going to see those back because they're now in the pit of despair, I'm going to call it. We're on Kronos. That was the big reveal this week. Oh, we should have done the woo! We'll just throw that in randomly at the beginning. The thing that was coming was exactly what we were talking about last week. It's Kronos that's trying to escape the pit of Tartarus. The big reveal this week, as Percy figured it out, is that it was kind of obvious, because it was Ares that gave him the backpack that had the bolt in it. Ares was the thief, or Ares' demigod daughter may have been the thief acting on his behalf, who stole the bolt, and then they cleverly hid it in a backpack that was given to Percy by Ares on his way to Vegas, knowing that he would get it into the underworld and
so they
deliver
could frame Hades.
So they could frame Hades, right? So let's skip right to that part, or we'll skip right to that end there. They survived the desert thing. We get a look at Hades' palace, which is this really cool inverted kind of mountainscape sticking downward from the sky. I don't never remember if it's a stalactite or a stalagmite in comments. Spelunkers in the chat.
I believe.
The one that comes down from the ceiling, right? Badass design. They very wisely don't show them trekking across the desert, wasting time, or how the hell they got up there. I have no idea how that happened. I don't need to. They're in it, and it looks cool. It's this cool throne room with some polished black obsidian floor, and all you hear are heel steps. Click, 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 click. And it's Hades rolling up on him, but he shows up kind of like a concierge or a valet. Like, you know who I am, I know who you are, let's just cut right to the bullshit. You know, and I'm like, dude, alright, I like this guy. I like him, cool. I was with that, but what did you think of the aesthetic of the throne room? Did that hit that same vibe for you?
It fit what you would believe in the underworld that they created would be Hades' throne room, as he is the lord of the underworld.
Yep, true. For sure.
I love how he threw out, like, do you want some pomegranate, a pomegranate
pomegranate juice. Yep. That was dope. Persephone, yep, very good. I'm just crossing off a couple things on my list here as we go.
Their conversation was great, because one person they know one story while the other one has another story, and then the truth gets told eventually between back and forth, which plays right into the titles. Like, we figure out the truth somewhat.
Now, I'm not saying it was like a Game of Thrones level, like dialogue or deep or anything like that. No. But it was 1,000%. But dude, it was 1,000% better than the always on the nose nonsense we get in so much other crap we watch. Like, I have a video that just went out about an hour ago on season 2 of Halo, and my thoughts on that coming up. And like, Halo is a perfect example from a couple years ago. Everything everybody says is exactly what they mean, and always answers directly the opposition's question. Like, there's never any subtext, there's never any depth. This is an effing kid show, and it still took each of these characters maneuvering around each other piece by piece to come to the conclusion where Percy's finally like, wait, what do you mean you don't want the bolt? What do you want? And Hades,
I want my helm.
Right. He's like, because one of you jackasses stole it, I want it back. If somebody stole it and then stole the bolt, I just want my hat.
Yeah.
I don't want
the bolt. Why would I want that?
Dumbass.
I'm happy down here.
Dude, and that dude, I'm embarrassed to say, but I gave it like a year when that happened, because I was like, good. I didn't want this to be so straightforward, obvious like that. Like, I wanted a little wrinkle and a little twist. You know, we already knew there was some gangsterism going on with the Ares demigod daughter from the camp maybe acting on somebody's behalf, yada yada. There was some subterfuge going on. But to swap the big bad like they did, I was digging that, dude.
Yeah.
I was digging it.
It wasn't cut and dry. It wasn't, here's your bad guy. Go vanquish the dragon. Come home. Get what you want.
Yep.
It wasn't,
I was digging that.
paint by numbers. They throw a little bit into it, which makes the story more deep. It gives you more things to talk about. It's better. It's not right on the nose. It's not like dialogue that only moves the plot forward too. Like there was some fun to it. Like it moved the plot forward, but there was some fun to it as well. Instead of like you said, being so direct.
There was definite back and forth. Right. There was a definite back and forth, and it did involve at one point a literal deal with the devil, because Hades at one point, even after they've reconciled the truth of their situation, Hades is like, listen, I'll make you a deal. You and your mom, and I'll throw in the goat. Y'all can stay down here. Just ask for you have to ask me for sanctuary formally. You guys can all stay. And Percy's trying to sort it out. He's like, no, I'm trying to stay down here. And then Hades gets a little ominous for a second, just like Ares did in the diner. He's like, the only question is how difficult you're going to make this decision. And then they bounce right back into the flashback of Percy and his mom, where she's trying to get him out of the car to go to school, and she says almost verbatim the same thing. The only thing left for us to figure out is how hard you make getting out of the car. So those flashbacks were brilliantly tied in, but I loved that Hades made him to deal with the devil thing, and that ties into one of my other, just like at my very end, favorite points. Once again, Percy Jackson, 12 years old, is like, I gotta figure out another way. I can't beat this dude straight up. He's got underworld. He's gonna pull the shit out of him.
Yep.
I accept the quest to find your MacGuffin, your helm.
He's like, I accept your quest. He's like, great, then let's just do this. And he's like, no, first.
No. Right. Dude, I love that, man. And the entire time they're doing that kind of stuff too. One of my very last notes here. You mentioned the color grading in this one, or color correction, or whatever the technical term is, just like the aesthetic.
Yeah, it's color grading, color correction. Great, okay. So when you first shoot, a lot of these cameras, they shoot in RAW, where you get all the information. Then they do the color correction to get everything balanced, and then they put the grade on it to give it the look. The grading is the style, right? Yeah, right. Stylized. So you mentioned that, dude. I'm gonna send big shout out to the folks that scored this episode. There was a great combination of some really somber stuff, some ominous stuff. There was some especially at the end, spoiler alert, when Poseidon shows up and he's, mom's having her breakdown in her last little flashback, and Poseidon's like, I can't talk to him now, but there's gonna come a day when he realizes who he is. And when he's ready, I'll stand by his side. Dude, the musical, it sweeps. It just goes up. And it builds up.
Goosebumps. Yep. I'm like, dude, it's about damn time. Get in the fight. Like, go.
I do have a correction from one of my nitpicks from episode 1.
Oh, yeah, let's throw that in.
So, his sword. I said, like, in the movie, they had the click. It was a click button type thing, and it became the sword. And this one more like a normal bic. So they're staying true to the book, because in the book, they talk about he uncaps it a lot. And you can't uncap a clicky pen. So I think it's a little bit more. I liked how you had to uncap it and then it comes out. I kind of like that feel. It's like unsheathing it a little bit.
I think you did describe it correctly on a couple of occasions, though, because you mentioned that in the book it was a fountain pen, or an inkwell pen, and you would hit.
It was a pen that it has a cap on it, like a Bic pen, like it's described in the
book. That's right. Fountain pens don't have. That's right. It just goes in the inkwell. There is no cap on. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very well. Good correction.
I was just saying that we're here to learn. It looked stylish. More with the click pin they used in the movie, but I liked how this one's more true to the book, and I'm now watching him actually do it when he turned around to fight Krubros. He uncapped the pin and then it became the sword, and I'm like, it's like unsheathing it. It's perfect.
Yeah. Well, dude, they hit you with the sound cue too. Like they give you the metallic scrape of a sword out of a scabbard, which never happens in real life, but everybody knows that sound.
Yeah.
So we're with that. I was digging that too. Percy's a bad little man. Like he had a couple moments. The stinger. Oh, it's not a stinger because they showed at the end of the episode, and then they show a continuation of the stinger of the scene on the beach with them and Hades, like the actual square off. When they're on the beach after having
Ares, not Hades.
What did I say?
You said Hades.
When Percy is on the beach with Ares at the end of the episode is what I meant. It's it's him and they show you next week, and somehow the kids are all back on the beach, it looked like. It wasn't just a one-on-one. The three of them were there, right?
Yeah, because remember, Annabelle used her pearl when she was trapped
they went back. Right. So at some point they must be going back in, because that scene at the end of the episode in the Stinger, they were back on that beach, in like a 3v1 scenario. But in both scenes, Percy done raises that blade like he means business, and I'm like, you're gonna get a curb stomp, little man, but I'm here for it, and hopefully Poseidon shows up at the last second and buries this dude.
Dude,
like,
I was loving the sword
would pay good money for that.
That Ares had, though, the claymore he had.
Yeah,
that was a very nice claymore.
Yeah.
And every time I see him, it's like, it just hits my head. You think you know me?
Yep. I was just gonna say, dude, every time he shows up, I get the Edge vibe. And again, it's such a brilliant bit of cast. I think they cast all the gods so well that I've seen so far. Like, that dude in real life, like you said, is like 6'8" or whatever. So it makes it all the more hilarious that he's stacked up against some kid who might be 5 feet, 5'1" on his best day in his shoes. And they charge in the Stinger scene, you know what I mean? Like, okay, all right, little man, let's do it.
And then they had the reveal of the actor of Poseidon standing there when he was talking to his mom. And I'm like, the guy looks like the old man in the sea. Yeah. He looks like
seafoam green shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks
thunder
like
outside.
He would be Poseidon. So
did you pick up that cue when it was a sunny day outside and Mom does the sacrifice, throws the match into the Sunday, and the smoke comes up, and then in the background on the windows the sky darkens and the rain comes down.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And then it's like the subtitles I always have on. I couldn't hear it. I was bummed about that, but every now and then it just said thunder rumbles, and I'm like, yeah. And dude, they cast him so good, like you said, but the actor, who I don't know from a hole in the wall, he could be the most famous person on the planet.
He's mostly been in British films.
Okay, all right, so he's accomplished. He's somebody semi in the know at the very least.
Yeah.
Right? He gets 5 lines. He's got 30 seconds of screen time, and he looks like the tortured soul I expected in this situation. Like a dad that doesn't want to be absentee, and it kills him to be unable to intervene or to do anything right now. Like, he sold it. It was all in his face.
He had a presence that you will remember. Like, that's Poseidon. Like, as soon as you saw him, you're like, yep, that's Poseidon. Yeah, I can believe that.
Good, absolutely. And I thought that there was another great line of dialogue in that scene too, where the mom's talking to Poseidon. The mom's been great. Every flashback in this brief flashback, you can see she's in it for her kid. Loving mother, hands down. And it's obviously reflected in Percy, because we skipped over that. When he's making that deal for passage in the underworld, his mother's like a gold statue that Hades had prepped up in like a little waiting area. And Percy's like, dude, what'd you do to my mom, bro? Like, no, we're about to throw. And like he makes all the right choices. Right. And that was brilliant. That was a brilliant point. There was a reason to that, remember?
Yeah.
So, dude, because as it turns out, getting crushed by a Minotaur, kind of terminal.
Yep.
You know? So I saved her. I knew you'd come pay me a visit. Here you are.
Now that all worked.
Right. Which is what a Greek god would do. Yeah. There was a great line in that exchange between the mom and Poseidon that echoed what Annabeth said to Hephaestus when she played on his feelings in the Golden Throne episode, where mom basically tells Poseidon, I got some shit to say, but you're not going to want to hear it. And then Poseidon does the whole, I'm here, like not like a Han. It was very shades in a distant way of Han and Leia, like, I love you, I know. Like, he can't say anything or do anything except listen. That's all he can do. And then mom lays out the speech where it's like, I want Percy to know who he is before your family shows up and tells him who they want him to be. And it just reminded me what Annabeth said to Festus, like, dude, he's better than all of you. You know what I mean? Like, all of you. He deserves better than this, and I'm going to make sure. Right. And I'm like, everything here connects. And I'm like, is this show really good? Or were most shows like this 15 years ago and we forgot this? And now we're rediscovering how to write basic hero journey shit where everything makes sense and setups have payoffs. Like, is it a lost art in 15 years? Is that what happened here? Is this show really that good, or are we just deprived?
I think we're deprived, because what I'm going to say is, when the show creator is close to the source material, when you bring in the author, when you bring in the guy who created the character, they're going to take more care to present their baby to the world the way they want it to be seen, the way they want it to be shown, the way they want you to perceive it. So I believe with the author truly involved in this. Just like the showrunner for Andor Season 1, he was the creator of Andor, the director of Rogue One. It had more care to it. Someone who actually liked Star Wars, not who's just there for a paycheck. This guy, this is his baby. He's been writing Percy Jackson books for like 15, 20 years now. This is his character, and he wants it perceived properly after that debacle Hollywood did with his first 2 books and their first attempts at movies. So
where he had no creative control, as I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Like, he had zero creative control over the films.
So I do believe this is the result of that, when people actually care about the product that they're putting out, not just another payday.
Yeah, I think it shows. Like, Andor's a great comp. Another more unfortunate comp, I think, is that this show, if I remember reading the numbers correctly, and I'll have these in a follow-up video, it outperformed Echo, believe it or not. Shocking to nobody. But I think it debuted 7 on Disney Plus, behind all the usual suspects on Disney Plus, like Bluey and all the other stuff. But somewhere in the neighborhood, I think it was just under 1 million viewers for the first episode in the first 6 days. Echo came in at number 9 and had about 1/3 of those views. So for all of the razzmatazz of how great Echo was, this show buried it in the numbers, and it's sad that more people aren't getting this in front of their kids, I think, at the proper age level, because it really is good.
It is
this
good.
This is a good show.
If you want to see how it's done, and when someone actually cares about the project, this is one of the ones you get. Andor is what you get. You get shows that are actually worth watching. You get stellar performances when you have directors who know how to direct, to tell the story that the person put in front of them.
For sure.
It's amazing when you get someone who cares about something to make it happen. And, you know, we were talking, I was just talking about this, and we were just talking about this, and one of the things that I was just thinking about was, when the MCU started to dip, like started to become really bad, kind of coincides when Stan Lee passed away.
Doesn't it, though? Doesn't it?
It's like they were trying to impress him, and now that he's gone, they don't care about what they're putting out anymore.
I think there's probably an element of that. I mean, on that same note, I was watching some behind-the-scenes stuff the other day of Peter Jackson talking about what it was like to work on the Fellowship trilogy. I was watching some last day shooting shots between him and Elijah Wood, and they were basically like, we just didn't want it to be over. We put so much effort into this that they did like 40-odd takes of like that one scene where Frodo's finishing up the book and giving it to Sam to continue. And like they got all emotional. Like when Peter Jackson called cut, like he went right over to Elijah Wood and hugged him, and they both like bawled. You know what I mean? Because they for 3 years they lived and breathed all that. Respected Source, enjoyed Source, like they embodied the parts that they played, and you can tell like there was a magic contained there, you know. And everything we get in franchise like that now just does not feel like that at all. But we're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, dude. Give me a quick prediction for the finale, and then your overall score for this episode. Baseball analogy still applies.
All right, so my prediction for the upcoming episode will be the confrontation between Ares and Poseidon, while Percy and his band of 2 will take on the girl from the camp, who's Ares' daughter, to get the helm back. He will present the bolt back to Zeus at Mount Olympus, which is the Empire State Building, by the way, if you guys don't know.
Yep.
I mean, they hinted at it when Hermes took the head of Medusa to there.
Yeah.
And I did like that, like, you know, the trailer they cut at the end of it. He was like, I want to see Zeus. And no, I don't have an appointment.
Dude, and then he mic drops the Master Bolt on the attendance counter. I'm like, oh snap, hero play ahead of time.
So I believe he's going to use the Master Bolt to give to Zeus, have Zeus help him get the helmet back to force Hades to honor his deal to give his mother back for the helm.
Yeah. Which would be interesting, because I don't know if Zeus can force anybody to do that, because he couldn't force Persephone to be released. That could be interesting. I think it's
because she ate.
Oh, that's right. That's right. She made a decision to be there. That's right. Okay. All right. Our mythology experts can educate us in the comments. That'd be
fun. Come leave your comments.
Please do. Please do. Rating for the episode. Baseball analogy. Go.
Baseball analogy. All right. So we've had singles. We've had triples. We've had a walk.
Yep.
I think this was a solid. I think this was a solid double. Great setup. Actually, I'm going to flip it. We're not going to be offense this time. We're going to be defense. I think the closer did the setup man in the 8th inning did his job, and now the closer's going to come in and just, 3 pitches, 3 outs, we done.
All right. See, I'm gonna keep it about the same. I don't have a prediction very different than what you said, so I'm just gonna go right to my score. I'm gonna go offense because I'm just staying bright, dude. Smashed, dude. Like an extra innings smash, game winner, walk off, however you want to put it.
Over
this episode was
Ted Williams'
awesome.
corner.
Dude, hey, dude, right over there, dude. The shot was called. I think, I'm giving this to you. I think you called the shot last week. You're like, yeah. Hold on, dude. They're just saving some shit. They're saving some time and some money. Keep your pants on, Wolf. You'll be fine. Dude, this was it, guy. Like you said, dude. Everything from the aesthetic to the music to the performances, dude. I love these kids. I think they're all great. They all serve the role they play. Grover's he's charming and kind of funny. Annabeth's turn from hard ass into like person on your team. Like the person that was supposed to throw you down the stairs is now the person that would have thrown herself down the stairs to save you to do the mission. Percy went from kind of an unsure, bullied kid a little bit and has become an absolute badass in a kid's show.
Found his confidence.
This isn't I'm saying this isn't Walking Dead. This isn't The Last of Us. He's not supposed to be snapping necks and shit like that. Like, no, he's exactly that. He's a tween character that's found himself. He's found his voice. And he's increasingly making good decisions and not acting like an over-emotional dickweed every time adversity happens. Yeah. I love that.
And when you tell these type of stories, you have to move the art. He went from the bullied kid who always just took it to someone who's standing up to the god of war.
Yep. Literally, because Edge is 6'8". We just said that. Yeah, I can't. Once again, I'm at the sad part of our show right now because now we have to wait. Like it's just like Pacific Rim. Start the clock or restart the clock. We have to wait now a damn week for a damn kids show to be entertained. Like, where is the rest of fiction? Why is this a problem?
Well, we do have one thing to look forward to on Friday. Masters of Air comes out on Apple TV on Friday, so I'm really looking forward to that. World War II docu-series.
That's the World War II pilot. That's the World War II pilot series, right?
Yeah, daylight bombings.
I might check that out. Okay.
Based from the same creators of Band of Brothers in the Pacific, so.
True. We'll have to give that a look then. But yeah, let's keep this. We're nice and succinct today, guy. Anything else you wanted to say about this week's episode, or are we good here? Because I think we handled everything on the pad.
Last thing I'm going to say is, you said you're sad that we have to wait a week. I'm sad because there's only one more week.
I know.
It's just one more week.
Dude, then I do have a closing question for like a minute's worth of discussion. Do they wrap this whole thing up next week? Is this book 1? Like, this is it? Or is the lead to season 2 a whole new story? Like, we resolved book 1?
Yeah, we would resolve book 1 because it's going to end the same place book 1 actually ends, so.
No shit, dude. Then kudos. I mean, somebody ought to wrap this up into a PowerPoint or something and literally just hand it out to all the studios. Be like, listen, if you're only going to do 8 episodes, fucking do this. Stop doing 4 bottle episodes out of 8. You can't do it. Dude, this show didn't have a bottle episode.
No. And the closest one they had was the last one with the Lotus Eaters.
But even then, it was the main characters doing main character shit on their way to the plot. It just wasn't what I wanted, but you know what I mean? But it wasn't as much as it gets mismaligned for being all those things. It wasn't episode 3 of The Last of Us, where if you just surgically excised it, like your whole other 7 episodes still truck to the finish line. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no, every episode here had its purpose. So I'm sad, dude, that this end. I want another season of this. Hopefully it gets one, but the numbers I saw, they weren't super encouraging down the stretch. But who knows? Maybe this catches a second wind as summer reading hits. I don't know. But I hope for more Percy Jackson and the Olympians because this has been a good time so far. But I think that's going to do it for us, guys. King Z, I know you're not feeling well. If you're not up to saying goodnight, I will handle the good nights.
I can do it. I have no problem with it. I got this thing down to a science.
I know you got a little script in your head. Do your scripting in your head. Go ahead.
As you stayed with us through this whole discussion on episode 7 of Percy Jackson, I know you liked it, so hit that thumbs up because it helps us in the algorithm and it gets our video out to other people. So we hit that subscribe button at the time of recording this video. We are at 197 subscribers, 3 away from the 200. We'll think of something special to do at the 200 subscriber. We might do a special video just for you guys for staying around and liking our video and subscribing. So please hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and never forget to hit that notification bell so every time we drop a new video, y'all are notified and you don't miss out on this great content. With that said, I think it's time for the camera to go black.